We're so glad that you could join us this morning. Did you see who built this? I don't know, but it's probably for Pastor Stewart's lesson, so we'll leave it. Today, we're talking about trusting in the Lord. And when we stand for God, He will stand with us. Enjoy the lesson.
Time! We're gonna hide the ball under the cup, and at the end, we're gonna try to figure out which one it is. I don't know. Okay, if you think it's under this cup, jump up and down. Jump. If you think it's under this cup, run in place. Run. If you think it's under this one, then scream. Ah! Which one do you think it's under? Pick it up. No.
Hey!
Run in place. Good job. Let's do it again.
All right, here we go.
Follow the cup.
Better.
If you think out of this one, spin a circle. Spin. If you think this one, then dance. If you think this one, then clap. Okay, let's see.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
No. There it is. Yay.
Okay, again?
Yep.
All right, last one. Here we go.
Okay. If it's under this one, then scream. Ah! If it's this one, then clap. If you think this one, then jump.
Right.
Let's see. No.
Hey!
Good job, guys. Thanks for playing.
Stand up. Let's warm up for worship. Ready? Reach up high. Twist. Stand on one foot. Stand on the other foot. And stretch your arms. Let's do 5 jumping jacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For this song, when you hear "You Make Me Move," Jesus, choose your own dance move. Let's do it.
Jesus, every breath I take, I breathe in you. Through you, I can do anything. I can do all things. 'Cause it's you who gives me strength. Nothing is impossible. Through you, blind eyes are open. Strongholds are broken. I am living by faith. Nothing is impossible. Not gonna live by what I see. Not gonna live by what I feel. Deep down I know that you're here with me. I know that you can do anything. Come on, say it. Through you I can do anything. I can do all things. 'Cause it's you who gives me strength. Nothing is impossible. Through you, blind eyes are open. Strongholds are broken. I am living by faith. Nothing is impossible. Yeah. Not gonna live by what I see. I'm not gonna live by what I feel. Deep down I know that you're here with me. I know that you can do anything. Through you I can do anything. I can do all things. 'Cause it's you who gives me strength. Nothing is impossible. Through you, blind eyes are open. Strongholds are broken. I am living by faith. Nothing is impossible. Come on, put your hands together. Sing it out, say, I believe, I believe. I believe, I believe in you. I believe, I believe. I believe, I believe. I believe, I believe. I believe, I believe in you. I believe, I believe. I believe, I believe in you. Through you, I can do anything. I can do all things. 'Cause it's you who gives me strength. Nothing is impossible. Through you, blind eyes are open. Strongholds are broken. I am living by faith. Nothing is impossible. I believe, I believe. I believe, I believe in you. I believe, I believe. I believe, I believe in you.
Even in the midst of everything that's going on right now, it's amazing to see what God is doing. Let's worship Him together.
The weapon may be formed, but it won't prosper. When the darkness falls, it won't prevail. 'Cause the God I serve knows only how to triumph. My God will never fail. Oh, my God will never fail. I'm gonna see a victory, for the battle belongs to you, Lord. Oh, hey. There's power in the mighty name of Jesus. Every war he wages, he will win. Oh, I'm not backing down from any giant. Hey. 'Cause I know how this story ends. Yes, I know how this story ends. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. Gonna worship my way through this battle. Gonna worship my way through. Hey. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. Come on. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. Yeah. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. Oh, I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. Yeah. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You're turning it around. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You're working it out. You're working it for my
God, we thank you that you are always with us and that we can trust in you no matter what. Help us to learn more about you today. Amen.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight.
Proverbs
3, 5 through 6.
Welcome
To
our
10 Talk.
Mega Bear. What was that for?
You have a pet mosquito?
No, he's trying to say that.
You live in Jello?
No, he's trying to tell us
You
about.
just visited Hawaii?
No, he's trying to tell us about his teddy bears.
Oh, that makes sense. I guess I didn't understand you right.
That's okay. That reminds me of what we're talking about today. That we don't have to lean on our own understanding because God understands even when we don't, and we can trust Him.
You meant Buddy Barrel?
No.
Hi, I'm Caleb. I'm David. And I'm Sammy. And this is Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths.
Go ahead. It's safe. You jump, Sam.
Hi, I'm Isaac from Oregon, and today I'll be reading you Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths.
Mega Bear, remember this morning when you were telling me about how you were nervous about telling the other bears about God? And how you were so nervous, it was unbearable. Well, that reminds me of what we're talking about today. Wow, that's right. Today we're talking about trusting in the Lord. Wow, that's right. And when you trust in the Lord, and you stand up for Him, He will stand with you. Those Speedies are amazing, aren't they? They just fly in, fly out, and just things are going like crazy. But thank you so much, Speedy. You know, that's what we're talking about today. When you trust in the Lord and you stand up for Him, He will stand with you. Let me tell you a story about that. A few years ago, I went with a missionary to another country to tell a village about Jesus. And we were telling the kids about Jesus. We set up this tent and this stage, and we were doing the stories and lessons and teaching these kids about Jesus. Now, another pastor, he was up there and he was talking to the kids, and I was standing to the side and kind of watching and just enjoying it. It was really cool, really fun. And the little kids were sitting there just like, ee, and just watching and just having a great time. When I heard a noise behind me, and I turned around and I noticed something kind of scary. There was a bunch of ladies, and they were making lunch for us. They had some chickens, and they were preparing them for our lunch. They're going to feed us, and they're going to feed the kids of the village. Now, what happened while they were cooking? Some wild dogs had walked up to them, and the wild dogs were like, and they were just like walking up to ladies real slow. There was probably about 10 or 15 of these dogs, and they were walking up like this. And then their teeth, and they're like growling, and they're looking like they're about to attack any moment. When I saw this, and in my heart, I knew I've got to do something. I've got to step in and do something. When I walked over there, and I stepped right between the ladies and the dogs. Now, my first thought was, I needed to do something, right? My second thought, when I did step between the women and the dogs, I was completely terrified. I was completely terrified. I was scared out of my mind. I was like, what have I done? When all of a sudden, I remembered something very important. I remembered God had me here for a reason. And I knew that we were there to tell these kids about Jesus. And I knew that God was with me. And a boldness came over me. And I thought, I'm just going to stand up for God. So I said, dogs, listen to me. In the name of Jesus, get out of here. And the dogs just like jumped, turned around, and they all ran away. It was amazing. The ladies, when I look back up, their eyes were all big. My eyes were all big. And I just saw what God had done. Now that night, we had another service. And the ladies came back and they brought their family, they brought their kids, they brought their neighbors, and they told them about what had happened, how God had protected them and kept them safe from the wild dogs. And that night we had a prayer service and they brought their kids forward and we prayed, and God did amazing things. See, when you stand up for God, He will stand with you, because God wants to use you to tell others about Him. And when you do that, amazing things can happen.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Never lie on what you think you know. Remember the Lord in everything you do, and He will show you the right path. Proverbs 3 verses 5 and 6. Thank you.
In today's Bible story, we're talking about 3 young men who stood up for God. What's amazing about these young men is that they were taken from their home country. They had lived in Israel, and they were taken away by the king of Babylon, well, to his kingdom in Babylon. They took them away, and they decided that they were going to stand up for God no matter what. They decided, even though they were taken away as slaves, that they were going to live their lives as best they could wherever they were living, and standing up and still worshiping God no matter what. Now, the king was a king that really liked himself quite a bit. He thought he was really cool. So one day, this king decided he was going to build a giant tower made out of solid gold. Well, those Speedies are incredible, aren't they? Wow. I just mentioned building a tower, and boy, they would build this statue right here. That's pretty cool. But you know what? The funny thing is, he built a statue out of gold that looked like himself. That doesn't exactly look like King Nebuchadnezzar, but it's pretty good, though. I think it's pretty good. Yeah, see, he had a giant tower that was built, made out of solid gold that looked like him. And he's like, I really like the way I look. I'm a handsome man, I am. King Nebuchadnezzar, that's right. People should worship me. They should worship a giant idol that looks like me. That's right. So, have everybody, I want you to go get your instruments. I want you to get your harp or whatever you got to play. And you two, get whatever instruments you play, and you're going to play this music for me. Now, when the music plays, everybody's got to bow down and worship this idol. Send the news out. Let everybody know. So the news went out across the whole land. And everybody heard that when the music played, they had to bow down and worship this giant golden idol. Now, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they'd heard about this plan too. And they'd heard that they were supposed to bow down and worship this giant idol. Now it's a giant idol right there. Okay. But they said, no way. I'm not going to worship this idol. No way. They said, we worship God. And no matter what, we are going to worship God. We're not going to worship some crazy idol. So the music played, and everybody bowed down and began to worship the idol, except Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They stood there. And the news got back to the king. And the king went, what? People didn't worship my idol? My beautiful face? The golden idol that looks like me? They did not worship it? Bring those people to me right now. I said, get those people and bring them to me right now. And they went and got those 3 men. And they put them stood them right before the king. And this king said, I'm going to give you one more chance. We're going to play the music. And you're going to bow down and worship that idol right in front of me. And they said, King, no matter what, we are not going to worship that idol. We believe in the one true God. And we believe that we will worship him and love him. And we're going to stand up for him. We don't know what's going to happen to us, but we're going to stand up for our God. And the king got mad. He's like, what? You know what the punishment for that is? Do you know what the punishment for that is? You will be thrown into the fire, and you will be cooked. There's a fire right there. Gonna cook you, my friend. Gonna cook you. And he said, start the fire. and make that fire 7 times hotter than it's ever been. So they threw all kinds of wood and stuff into that fireplace and get that fire really, really hot. Then they took the 3 guys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they threw them in the fire. The king is standing back going, teach people to ignore me. Teach people to ignore my laws. Teach people. He looked at the fire. He went, hey, didn't we throw 3 people in the fire? We did, right? Yeah. He's like, we threw 3 people in the fire, right? Look right now. Look in the fire. He said, I see a 4th person. And this 4th person is like all shiny and glowy. It looks like it could be an angel. I don't know what's going on. He's like, and they're not burning. They're just walking around. They look like they're praising, look like they're happy. He said, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, come out of that fire. And they walked right out of the fire. They walked right out. They walked up to the king. The king walked around him like, what? What? He walked around him. Said, I can't believe this. And he their clothes didn't even smell like smoke. And they had tied their hands with rope. The rope had burned off. It was gone. The king looked at him and said, whoever you worship, whoever you believe in, now that's a true, real God. You see, they had decided long before they were going to stand up for God. But they didn't know what God was going to do. God, he stood up. He stood with them. They were in the fire. God didn't rush down, grab them, pull them out, rescue them. What God did was he went in the fire with them. You see, sometimes we're going through some tough stuff. Sometimes we feel like God wants us to tell our friends about Jesus. Sometimes we're nervous and scared to do that. Sometimes we want God to rescue us, send somebody else in to tell them about Jesus, right? Sometimes we want God to send somebody else to do it. But God's saying, no, Mega Bear, I want you to do it. I want you to tell your buddies about God. I want you to tell your friends, Anna, about Jesus. And when you do, he's going to stand with you. He'll be with you the entire time. That's what's great about God. He won't leave you alone. He will be with you. Today, you can have that boldness too. If you've not had that opportunity to ask Jesus to come into your heart, you can do it right now. Because when you ask Jesus to come into your heart, then he will give you a new boldness, a new strength that you've never had before. We don't need to worship some false idol, some false God, something that's not even real. We know the one true God. Let's pray together. Everybody, close your heads and bow your eyes, and let's pray this prayer together. Dear Jesus, forgive me of the things that I've done wrong. Come into my life and help me to stand up for you. In Jesus' name, amen. Wow, I've had a great time with you guys today. You know, let's go out with one more real fun song. And we love you, we're praying for you, and we'll see you next week.
Show us your biggest smile. Good job. Let's dance.
Has anybody got the